Hi YouTube, it's Kathy. Happy Vlogmas. Today I'm going to go over to a friend's house and we're going to watch episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars because we're going to see episode 7 tomorrow on Christmas Day. What I figured I'd do is take you along, and after each movie I would do a little bit of a recap or some thoughts on the movie for you. So obviously if you haven't seen episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars, you should probably not watch this video. There will be absolutely no episode 7 spoilers in this video though, because I won't see it until tomorrow. No spoilers in the comments, please, and thank you. So I forgot to say this in the intro, and I know I'm going to forget to say it if I get to my venue without saying it first, so I'm going to do it as I'm walking to my venue, where I'm going to watch the Star Wars. I haven't properly seen the original trilogy since I was about 12, so I'm probably not going to remember a lot, so I'm probably going to have a bunch of random things to say.
The Star Wars trilogy.
So we just finished A New Hope, and here are some of my notes on it. So we did watch it on VHS, but we watched the 1995 edition, so there was a little bit of an interview at the beginning with George Lucas. I also laughed really hard because there was an advertisement for Star Wars at the beginning of the Star Wars videotape, which is funny because there were no other adverts. Why would you put an advert for the thing you're about to watch on the thing you're watching? Also, just so we're really clear, Han Solo shot first. In fact, Greedo doesn't shoot in this version. It's great. One of the fun things that you learned during the interview at the beginning with George Lucas is that this film was made for about $10 million, and films at this point were being made for $20 or $30 million, and only 20% of the budget was for special effects. I love that a non-human has the first lines of the series. C-3PO. I love the very futuristic floppy disk that goes into R2-D2 at the beginning. C-3PO is a giant whiner. We seem to be made to suffer. It's a lot in life. I also love that he alludes that they've had adventures before, because he clearly says, no more adventures, I'm not going that way, which is great because it puts you right in the middle of the series, which is where this is meant to be. I decided while watching this film that Jawas are the minions of the Star Wars universe. It's funny to think of this movie coming out in 1977 with all the anti-religious and anti-New Ageism that is in the film. And the most New Agey line in the film was, "Stretch out with your feelings," by Obi-Wan Kenobi. I laughed really hard. Also, Leia's a badass, and I'm super excited that that was the case. I mean, I remember this being the case, but I love that I remembered it correctly. Also, Han Solo is such a misogynistic douchebag sometimes. Avoid female advice. Screw you. One of my biggest things is, why does Luke have a grappling hook? Is he Batman? I really want to see a Batman Skywalker crossover. It was interesting watching the first lightsaber battle of the series between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. It's really slow by today's cinematic standards. Also, what the hell happened to the corporeal form of Obi-Wan Kenobi? Like, he could have been a voice inside Luke's head with you still being able to see his body dying. In my head, that means that he didn't actually die, he just, transferred using the Force. Does he come back later? I don't remember, I watched this when I was a kid. I mean, of course, this was alluded to, I'll become more powerful if you strike me down, but what? I don't understand. I also find it really interesting that on 2 separate occasions in this film, Luke is told there wasn't anything he could have done when his aunt and uncle were killed, and then when Obi-Wan was killed. I also really like that Leia knew immediately that the Millennium Falcon must have a homing beacon on it, but she went back to the Rebel base anyway. Han Solo's one big redeeming quality was when he tried not to be a dick to Luke by saying, "May the Force be with you," before he supposedly left with all his money. Had this movie not been the success that it was, they could have just ended the series there. It ends completely happily. I mean, to be fair, Darth Vader doesn't outright die, but he is in one of those short-range ships, so it could, in theory, have been that he just ended up dying on his way back to a different space station, because I don't think there were any space stations around there. The Death Star just blew up. Okay, time to refuel and on to the next film. Empire Strikes Back. So the sun has gone down since I last talked to you, so the lighting has changed. Yay! One of C-3PO's best insults is, "Oh, switch off!" which is great, because we clearly know what he actually means. I do enjoy that they point out that Han isn't a nice person or a good character by giving him the exchange of, "Your tauntaun will freeze before you get to the first marker. I'll see you in hell." But even though he's a jerk, he does have some redeeming qualities. So one of the most heartbreaking moments of this film is when they close down the doors and Luke and Han are still out there on Hoth, and Chewie is just crying. It's heartbreaking. I also really like that you can tell that Chewie and Luke have bonded since the last film because Chewie gives him a big hug. I also really enjoyed that Vader can use the Force long distance. I wonder if he can just, pick somebody out and crush their windpipe, in which case, why didn't he just kill Luke doing that? Or if he has to be looking right at them to be doing it. It's very unclear how the Force works, really. One of the things I really dislike is Han's whole, "Oh, Leia, you like me" thing. It's like, well, why don't you tell her how you feel? Because, even when she says, "I love you" because she thinks you're gonna die, you say, "I know," instead of, "I love you too," which is just, you're such a bag of dicks. Also, I'd like to point out at this point we've seen a total of 2 women characters, Aunt Peru and Princess Leia, and it takes more than a movie and a half before we get to a person of color. We get 2. We get Lando and then a random background guy, and that's it. I find it pretty adorable that R2-D2 can swim. I also find it really interesting that characters can understand each other even when they're not speaking English, so Greedo is talking in a language I don't know what it is, and Han can perfectly understand him. R2-D2 talks in beeps and people know exactly what he's talking about. Also, Han Solo just really needs to learn about boundaries. I mean, Leia says, "Stop touching me," and he keeps touching her, and portraying stuff like that and continuing with that is pretty harmful. The good old 70s. Oh, this one was 1980, actually. The good old 80s. I also like that Luke doesn't at all question Yoda when he says he's been watching him all his life. I would be creeped out. I would say you're lying. I would say you've been on this weird planet going a little bit stir-crazy all by yourself. Yoda's not all there. He's a weird character, for sure. I also like how there wasn't a "wait, you can hear Ben Kenobi too" moment. They could both hear the voice, and there was no questioning that they could both hear the voice. I also couldn't help myself when the Minox were attacking the Millennium Falcon. I definitely blurted out, "Why did it have to be Minox?" I like that the weird hallucination forest that Luke goes into pretty much alludes to the connection between Vader and Luke. I find it really irresponsible that Han Solo's first reaction when the Millennium Falcon won't work is, "It's not my fault," and then found it hilarious when later in the film Lando said the same thing when it didn't work. I'd also really like to know how that asteroid worm evolved. C-3PO gets smacked around a lot. He's also really racist. Just, casual racism about Wookiees and Jawas, all over the place. Although I did enjoy his line of, "If you attached my legs, I wouldn't be in this ridiculous position." Anyway, we're gonna get more snacks and then move on to Return of the Jedi, after Wes stops playing piano. Return of the Jedi is done. Yes, all 3 movies in one day. So a lot of what I got out of this movie is that R2-D2 is the most charming and adorable character in the entire trilogy. Also, it was great to see another girl. Oh, look, she's a slave. Oh, another girl that's not a slave. Cool. Also, we've got a 3rd person of color, but he died after about a second of screen time. The head robot in the shop where R2-D2 and C-3PO are sent when they get to Jabba the Hutt's reminds me a lot of the guy who, created Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas. Just the shape of his head. Just watch it again, you'll see it now. And again, Han Solo says, "It's not my fault." I wonder if that's intentional. I like how the party is sentenced to being digested for 1,000 years. Wouldn't they just die after a while? I'm pretty sure they're not going to live for 1,000 years of being digested. Also, what is an honorable death that Jab is mentioning? What is honorable death when you're throwing somebody in a pit of toxic stomach fume? It is official. Luke swings on something in every single movie. Also, how much time is supposed to pass between episode 5 and episode 6? Because it seems like it should be about 2 weeks tops, but when he goes back to see Yoda, Yoda's dying. And then his corporeal form just disappears, which I guess makes sense with how Obi-Wan disappeared when he died, but then at the end when Vader dies, His corporeal form doesn't disappear, and he's a Jedi, so that's nice and confusing, but he does get to be one of the ghosts at the end during the dance party. It's really interesting that as soon as somebody is told something, they immediately figure it out, like, you have a twin sister. It must be Leia. Leia, you also have these powers. And then at the end of the movie, she's like, yeah, I know Luke's fine. It's all good. Let me say this once. Dudes referring to any form of ship as her or she is always creepy, even in a galaxy far, far away. Luke and Leia falling off those speed bikes should have hurt a lot more than it appeared to, but I'm gonna hold to the principle of if you fall off your broomstick in Harry Potter and hit the ground and don't die, it's kind of the same. Magic saved them, the Force saved these guys. Also, Ewoks are delightful, just deal with it. It is against my programming to impersonate a deity. Perfect, no Cylons. And in this film, Han is a giant jealous D-bag, but at least he apologized for it. And obviously this film has lots of iconic lines, such as, you rebel scum, and it's a trap! At one point it also just sounds like Akbar is saying, aw, crap. I have no idea what he actually said. Also, at one point, Chewie definitely does the George of the Jungle call on a vine, which is just hilarious. And Han finally says that he loves Leia, and then it's a reversal of the I know. I would have liked it a little bit better if it was just him finally saying it. And kind of like with telemarketers, once Luke has told the Emperor enough times that he will not turn over to the dark side, the Emperor finally believes him. It is a very touching moment at the end where Vader just wants to see his son with his own eyes before he dies, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with the next film. Tomorrow. I'm going to see the next film tomorrow. That is the sound of a VCR turning the tape back, or rewinding, as we like to say. What about you? Do you have any unanswered questions from just watching the original trilogy? Not researching, but just questions that come to mind when you're watching the film that are not explained at all by the film itself. Leave those in the comments below. Do not leave any spoilers for any of the other movies. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it for anybody who is also just about to go see Force Awakens, and of course you can always subscribe for more content from me. Happy Vlogmas!